Buddy, we got another very special guest for y'all this week. Everybody, please welcome to the show, Zach Chapman. Welcome, Zach.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And my mistake on thinking that you were on the show before. I do try to check. Okay, I type in our podcast name and I type in the interviewee name now because I messed it up so many times. And we just happened to talk about you in the episode that Dave was on in March. So I was like, oh, I didn't see a picture. I was like, oh, it must have been Zach because we talked about Dino Knights, but it wasn't. So I'm glad you're here.
Mike just shows up because I needed someone good looking to be the face of the show. That's really what happened.
Yeah, but I'm glad you're here today. So thanks for showing up. Chris and I saw Dino Knights and we're super excited to talk about that today. We have to do the annoying thing of putting you through the gauntlet and giving us your origin story in comics and how that all began. So I don't know if you want to start there.
Sure, yeah, no,
Give
I
us the
hear.
lowdown.
Yeah, so the lowdown on how I got started. Well, I guess my first comics is that it? Like, what's the first comics? Okay,
Yeah,
so the first
that
comics.
usually gives you a taste, right? And then you get
Yeah,
hooked.
the first comics I read were probably like a Superboy, Superman, probably like 1950s
Hmm.
books that were maybe at my grandma's house, or I got some, or maybe they were like flea market finds or something like that when I was like very young. I don't know, like 5 to like 8, in that area. So I was exposed to like golden age
Yep.
Superman type stuff, and I love that stuff. They're very strange and like very uh, s- just weird, goofy science fiction stuff. Um, so I liked that, and then I guess the more like serious side would have been Death and Birth of Superman. I didn't read it. I read it shortly after it came out, um, in trade form, and so I'm like just probably too. I was probably too young to be reading that as it was coming out, because yeah, I mean I wouldn't have been. It's yeah, like when you're young and you're not like it's I don't know. In the '90s, is like kind of hard to get exposed to that kind of thing. But for what I don't know, I think maybe the animated series, like Batman the animated series and Superman the animated series, is kind of
Yep.
like how I. That was probably like how I got started down wanting to pick up Death and Return.
Yep.
And actually, I think that didn't start at a comic shop. That probably started at like a Barnes and Noble
Yeah.
or a
Mhm.
Borders. Back then they had a
Oh man,
Borders.
Borders. What is that?
Yeah.
What the that's
No,
a
I
name I
spent
haven't
because
heard.
my dad was a big reader, and I would
Uh-huh.
just spend hours and hours at those stores, like
Yep.
reading like comics at
And I,
in the
and
comic
I
section.
remember like especially those times, early 2000s stuff. You'd see a lot more people just picking up books in Barnes and Noble and just sitting and reading through them.
Yeah.
Like, cause I mean now we have a lot more access online and tablets and stuff, but there were so many people just lounging and like reading full mangas and graphic novels right
Oh
in
yeah,
the right in the store.
I'd read
Yeah,
for hours. Yeah, because my
yeah,
dad would be there. So
It's funny because
'cause it was
similarly, my father used to go to the Borders town over from us and get his like fantasy novels that he would read. And when I would go there, he'd be so excited that I wanted to read something. I would either get like a sci-fi novel or usually a comic. So a lot of my older trades are all like Borders
that's
bought.
awesome.
Yeah.
yeah, that's almost certainly where I got death. Yeah, that is where I picked up Death. And I mean, I started reading. I still am a slow reader, but I was very slow reader when I was younger. So I'm a trade would last me a month or well,
Yeah,
despite me reading out like often, and the Return of Superman's actually pretty long. It's Death of Superman's not super long, but so I remember those are like the first actual trades. But yeah, you said Chris, you said your dad would pick up fantasy books. Like, what books did he read? I'm like super curious.
Oh, like everything. If it had any kind of fantasy leaning to it, like he knew about. For instance, he was a big George Railroad Martin fan, so we
Mhm.
have all the Game of Thrones books, like years before anyone even whispered
Way
it was a
before it
TV
was
show.
Yeah.
I've looked through them because I'm not the biggest fantasy fan, but I've looked through them a lot, and like I've seen a George Martin book that has like basically Killer Croc on the cover, and I'm like, what is this? Like,
Old school stuff.
but literally like, just boxes and boxes and bookshelves full of like, you remember? I think they still make them this way, but when they come out in like the hardcover, and then eventually they put them in the soft cover, like smaller version, and that would be like the discounted one after it had been out for a few years. That's all he bought because factory worker, can only afford so much. So get the book that's like, I don't know what it was back then, but $10 as opposed to $25. So we have so many of them throughout the house.
The trade paperbacks or pocket paperbacks or whatever.
Yeah, like pocket novels. Yeah,
I like really like 70s new wave science fiction books, which is actually like a kind of a big part of Dino Knights, but and those are like the typical size and shape of those. It's like this, thin,
Oh yeah.
weird concept, and you can read one of those if you're like a heavy reader. You can probably read one of those in like 2 days or an afternoon if you don't have anything going on.
I have a bunch like that because I became really obsessed with Frank Herbert younger because I became a huge Dune fan through my father, and he has a lot of those like thin, just weird concept. A lot of them were published in old Sci-Fi magazines back in the day, and then somebody went and published them as books, but they're just like,
you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
They're like, this one I think is a fix-up. This is a collection of short stories by Richard Matheson. So these would have been in like I don't know, Asimov's and Analog and those magazines before it would. Yeah,
it's cool back in the day, and like I know Conan the Barbarian has this kind of history too, where like a lot of these sci-fi like magazines that were coming out, they would have like a chapter of a story or like a short story, and then eventually it would be collected, kind of like comics is now.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big fan of Robert E. Howard, and all of that stuff's like, I mean, he invented like sword and sorcery. There is no like D&D without Robert E. Howard and Conan. And those are in the 1930s.
Yeah.
Right. That's what people don't understand sometimes is that
I was reading a biography of Gary Gygax about all that, and he was a huge Robert E. Howard fan, and he actually like to the point where through his life would shit talk Tolkien because everybody just thought he was ripping off Tolkien. He's like, no, I wasn't ripping off Tolkien until like later in his life where he's like, he didn't say he was ripping him off, but he's like, we both came to the same thing around the same time. I respect what he did, but through most of his life, he was just like, no, I don't like his work. I was a Robert E. Howard guy.
I'm along the same line, school of thought regarding that. It's just that like Robert E. Howard, there's like a much broader range in the type of stuff, and he wrote in a short amount of time. Like he died when he was like in his mid 30s. So, but he was very, very prolific. And, anyways, I'm as far as Gary Gygax, like I think I would be upset if I was him too, because people like what is the science fiction or what's the fantasy world that like everyone fucking knows? Like people will be like, oh, I'm so nerdy. Like I like Tolkien. I watched like Return of the King a million times. It's like. And what else?
Right.
Oh yeah, I'm just a huge fan of Tolkien. It's like, okay, well then you're not like a fan of science fiction and fantasy. You're a fan of fucking Tolkien. Like there are there's more people than just fucking Tolkien. Like I read Tolkien when I was like 10 or 12 or whatever, and then I moved on to other things.
Right.
And I feel like I would be upset if I was like a creator, and then people were just like, oh, you're just like this. The most famous basic, like the vanilla of fantasy, just because you have dwarves or just because you have whatever. When like in reality, like earlier things that predate Tolkien is at least 10 years before Tolkien, and on top of that, it's much more Jack Vance, which is a huge influence on Dino Knights. Jack Vance is like was a big influence on D&D. Like just the weird spell system and the fact that there's like science, maybe science fiction elements, maybe fantasy elements, all kind of like merged into one.
Coming together.
So yeah,
that's why I'm such a He-Man fan, because it's like it's science and magic.
Dude, I was
and it's just people punching each other in the face. That's what I'm here for, guys.
Okay, so well then I hope Dino Knights is for you, because actually like pre concepting, like before I even started working with Dave, part of I had just done a Wired had a review for I did a podcast review for Wired for the original He-Man and the what's it called? They did Kevin Smith did like a
the
revival
Netflix show,
and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, we really liked it. Yeah, we both watched it. I was a big fan.
But like I was not exposed to that stuff. I'm a '90s kid, and so I was exposed to it for the first time, and I was like watching the original and the remake, or not whatever the Kevin Smith
the continuation,
the continuation. It was kind of a continuation, I guess. Yeah,
I liked them both a lot, and I was doing more kind of digging and found that there were various artists on that project, and they all brought this like if you just look at like two of those characters next to each other, potentially you'd be like, these don't belong in a show together. Like they don't like there's something like incongruent. I don't know. It's like a little strange. But then when you see like 15 of the characters all together, you're like, oh, it's like a vibe. It's like anything goes, and it fits. Yeah. And so that was like where my mind was at when I was like doing like all of the lore writing for Dino Knights. I was like, no, I want that. Like I want like it's as if like 15 dudes like all got together and they were like concepting in different areas and then came together, and then we're like, all right, let's like do a little bit of refining, and then dump it out. So it is science fiction, it is fantasy, it is all of this shit. But yeah, so that was baked in what I wanted to do before I really even started like writing it. So I was like, oh yeah, awesome. I want it to be like, it looks like it was designed by like 15 different dudes, but it is a vibe. So that is like, that goes back like 3 years, basically, awesome. For when I was like really in the early stages of working on this.
That's something I love about that time period is they had like, it's all toys. Like, like I got my Ron guy right here. And it's all toys, and somebody just came up with this toy, and like kids will buy this toy because it looks cool. Who cares?
Makes
and then comics people mostly. I think in He-Man's case, it was TV people. Yeah, but came in and they're like, "Well, what if we made like a story about this?"
Yeah,
and that's where like G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man, all this stuff. They come up with some way to make this all fit together, and it's so crazy. And it was one of those things that when I look back at it historically, I'm like, this is the thing that generation first saw, what comics people have seen since like the 50s and 60s. Is like, bring these elements together and just make it make sense.
Yeah, it does have like a golden age sci-fi vibe to it. Yeah. Or at least a new wave, like a early new wave vibe to it. And yeah, I watched it. If you're a fan of He-Man, I highly recommend. I think that there is an episode of like there's like the Toys That Made Us, maybe is a show.
Yep.
That's a really good show, and it has a lot of like useful information on like who made what and how stuff was designed, and then that's how you like I watched that episode and was like, oh shit, like this is just different dudes throwing out different concepts, and then after the fact, like throwing in the little comic in the back to like try to make it make sense. And yeah, like that's how a lot of things were made back then. And it was, I mean, it is like a weird product of its time because it's like so capital, like it's like so they were just trying to sell a fucking toy.
Yep.
Yeah, they're selling so many toys.
It was
You
capitalism
know?
at its peak. Like that's
Yeah, but-
they wanted to sell something, and that's all
Yeah.
it was.
But the cool thing is like the artists, like their influence, like having like a Frazetta influence, or having like, you know, it's like these dudes that are like incredibly imaginative artists that just never, and you don't even like, they're not, I mean, they're big in the toy industry, but their art is super legit. Like it's
Right.
awesome, and they
Yeah.
just, I mean, they didn't make, or maybe they made like a couple of comics here and there, but it's pretty,
It's
you know, and you see those concepts, you're like, wow,
it's
this
crazy.
is incredible.
It's crazy you bring that up because my last job we were like I worked at a printing company. We had some like Photoshop designers that would take these just like wood prints and retouch them up and stuff. And the guy I worked with used to be one of those concept artists and like ad designers for KB Toys.
Oh, nice.
Oh, KB toys.
And so we would just like he had toys all over his computer section, and so I would like go and spend like an hour with him talking about toys, and like he was one of the guys doing like the ad art for like the '90s X-Men toys and like a lot of those concepts and stuff. He's like, yeah, I did this crazy display because that was all original art. When like KB Toys would be like, hey, we have this artist on hand, draw a bunch of the X-Men for a promo thing. And it was like, and he used to like talk about it like it was like a magical time. You know what I mean? Like all these adults were so passionate about like toys and bringing art, and it was like you said, it was like a golden age, man. Like I don't think we'll ever see that.
Well, I'm sure there's somebody in an office saying like, fix this, do that. Like there were
Yeah.
notes,
Right.
but it feels like looking back. And as an aside, Mike, because
Yeah.
you never told me this before, I can't believe you never told me this.
I thought
I had a
did,
KB Toys in my
sorry.
hometown. That
Me
dude
too.
distinctly affected my childhood.
I'll tell him. I'll make
And
sure I
but it feels like looking back, like there was some trust on the creatives to do like just
yeah.
make it, and then we'll see how it works almost. Because you talk about the toys that made us show, and one of the things I distinctly remember about that show was hearing about all the failures that led up to different, like whether it was Barbie or whether it was Transformers. Like those creators failed along the way, but like hit at some point. And
Yeah.
it just feels like there was more trust in artists back then and creatives as a whole. And that's what I get from what you're saying there too, Mike. Like that definitely would have been workshop to hell today.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They would.
I mean, I think it's even that same sentiment goes into corporate everything. Like I'm not just saying like toys or whatever, but like corporate comics are like that now. It's all like really like committee, designed by committee.
Right.
It feels like a lot of it is designed by committee. I mean, there are some things
Some
that
good
maybe they're
publishers out
trying to not do, like maybe Absolute, but who knows? The thing is they're gonna have success on Absolute, and I'm talking about DC and,
Yeah.
and their reimagining of a new universe or whatever. And it's like the style is like, oh, what if like the creator kind of just got
Did
to
their
do whatever
thing.
they do?
Yeah,
and it's
right.
like that's like hopefully that's a trend, but
Mhm.
it just feels like, I mean, even like in the 70s, right? Like just think about TV and film, or not TV, but like film. Like execs at Fox didn't know what the fuck like George Lucas was doing. They're like, what? I don't understand these minis, these dudes in these costumes. Like, but I'm gonna like let him do his thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen now.
No.
Like, that does not happen, and not with someone who is in their 20s or 30s. Like,
And then
that's fucking unheard of. So
And then they
It's even
saw that
worse.
movie and were like, this is nothing. Like, let him have, like, yeah, let's just put this out and try to get our money back. He can have toy rights. Like, who's going to buy toys of this?
Exactly. Like they were so just like out of the loop, and then now it's like I think they realize like, oh, there's this much on the line. Let me micromanage everything. Let me take all the and yeah. So then you get bullshit corporate garbage that's like not creative, not run by creatives, and it's just a product. And it's like, yeah, Star Wars is just a product now, but at the time, you know.
I mean, it is interesting you say that, and with Dino Knights on Kickstarter right now, I do see this like, I do see Dino Knights like, I mean, I do see avenues where it could be published today, like somebody like Mad Cave or like one of those other publishers that are doing crazy stuff that isn't like the normal trend. But um, I mean,
That
I see, I think that's why we see publishers like that getting more popular because people want creative owned stuff that isn't held by these constraints anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, about on to Dino Knights and that. I actually, I only did one pitch. It was
Uh-huh.
a pretty half-hearted pitch, to Mad Cave. That was the only pitch
Oh,
that I
really?
did.
Okay, well, that's
Oh,
Yeah,
fun.
and they were like, okay, this is cool, but like, send me other stuff because they have
Come
their
on, other
yeah
stuff.
yeah
Yeah, come on.
yeah. They were like, send me something else.
What you don't need anything else besides Dynamite.
I know, and I was just like, and then I sent them something else, and they were like, "Cool, send me a synopsis." And I was like, "I'm not really great at writing those," so I actually like, I was like looking through my inbox. I kind of had forgotten about it, and I was
Uh,
looking through my inbox. I was like, "Holy shit!" There was this editor at Mad Cave that told me to send a synopsis, and I just fucking ghosted him.
that's
But
all
yeah,
right.
it's just like it's a different art form. Like I
Yeah,
don't know, like I
right.
don't know. Pitching yourself's tough. I don't know. I'm like, it took me 2 months just to do this goddamn Kickstarter, like
Really?
just to build the assets and write up all the shit on the Kickstarter itself,
Yeah.
and that's outside of basically 2 years of Dino Knights. Not just for 2 issues though. I'm literally 6 issues deep. Like
Oh, wow.
I'm
Okay.
6 issues are in about a state of about 90 to 95% complete, and then I'm halfway done writing the script for issue 7. I'm like basically like all in on this.
Hmm.
Like I took all of the funds that I've been making on a haunting on Mars and just funneling them into the different artists on different issues of Dino Knights. So
I mean, the Kickstarter is up right now. You have almost 24 days to go, and you've almost doubled your goal. So, oh, I guess where you're at, I don't know, probably a little less than that, but I think it seems pretty popular. Um, I mean, you're funded pretty much, right? But obviously, like you said, this extra funds that and from backers and stuff will go towards these next 6 issues, right?
yeah, for sure.
Or
I mean,
whatever the
like
total 6 issues.
what it goes to is like basically paying for a larger print run
Hmm.
for issues 1 and 2. So for basically I'm doing these Kickstarters, like they're basically locked in for the rest of the year, and I'm doing 2 issues at a time for every season of the year, basically. Um, because the work's almost all done. So basically, I'll be the work that I have to do is fulfillment and in building the campaigns themselves, and that takes time. Like I created the logo and
Oh,
I
okay.
I do all of a significant amount of like the graphic design part of. I'm also the letterer on the series. Um, but yeah, so yeah, where was I? Anyways, it that
The funds go towards
the funds are going towards like
getting more issues out there and stuff.
yeah, larger
Yeah.
print run, and then
Yeah.
future issues, like that's rolling into like
Hmm.
the payments for the artists on literally issues 7 and 8, like right now, which is
Okay.
like what
Cool.
I'm working on.
And I mean, I guess we talked about it in an episode a few months ago, but like, give us your rundown on what is Dino Knights. Give us the.
Sure, yeah. So Dino Knights is like a science fiction Arthurian time travel story with anthropomorphic dinosaurs that are knights. They are four hatchlings from the super far, like the dying Earth, end of time future. Like literally, they're from like 8 billion years in the future. They're the last like creatures on Earth. They're fighting these machines. In the very like climactic last battle, these four hatchlings are sent back in time. And then kind of I guess like spoiler alert for like issue 1. One of them is sent back to actual Arthurian times. They're like a feudal kind of knight society, and they're dinosaurs. They look like dinosaurs. They're called Dino Knights. One of them is sent back to Arthurian times, and then the 3 other hatchlings are sent back to New York City, now contemporary times. or modern times or whatever. And the first issue is the kind of like the origin story of the main character who was separated, and then issue 2 is kind of the reuniting, and then uh it's just like a the first arc is kind of the main character kind of becoming the leader of the team, and then setting up like the main bad guy and etc. So it's like I'm trying to take as much time with this, like let it marinate, because like I think what a lot of people would do, like what a big two book would do, is like explain all of this in like 4 pages.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to like really take my time to build the team and the team dynamic over the course of a whole arc instead of like a single issue. So that's kind of where I settled. Like it's issue 1 is actually more of like an issue 0 because it's like an origin story of just one character. But because I want this to be ongoing, like there's no need to condense that. Like I do a lot of condensing. Like I throw a shit ton of like sci-fi concepts and weird shit on like the page to page, but as far as like the characters kind of marinating, they need time to have those character arcs. But me throwing like a bunch of weird science fiction concepts at you, like those are the things like I just, if you don't get it, just move on to the next thing, because like I want to hit. That's the other, like the joy of like I love new wave science fiction. I love like some paperback written in the 60s and 70s, and so like I want to throw that kind of weird shit in. Like I love Philip K. Dick, so like throwing weird shit like that, it just in a page on one of the issues, like that has to do with like one of the characters. Every time they look at media, they like see into a different alternate reality, and so they see a different form of that media in a different reality. So like instead of seeing like our Dune, they're like she's watching Jodorowsky's Dune instead of anyway.
Yeah,
So there's like
right,
shit
right.
like that that's like constantly, I don't know, I'm trying to like bombard
Yeah.
the reader with that kind of shit.
That's funny.
But
That's
I think
awesome.
when I was going through the Kickstarter and the issues, the thing that like struck me was, you see, like you said, Arthurian times, the sorcerer, and then bam, we're in some weird planet where they're fighting, where there's a bunch of different Dino Knights fighting robots in space, and then bam, we're playing D&D with a bunch of dinosaurs, and for some reason Earth has rockets on it, and it's like you said, you're throwing a bunch of shit out there. But what I love, and I think I can speak with Mike too, because we talk about this a lot. It seems crazy and fun, and that keyword fun of like just having a good time and doing crazy stuff, and let's just tell a good story while not trying to take it too serious.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not like I'm trying to not take it too serious, because it's not that it's all ages, but it's like, I mean, there's like people's heads getting cut off and like, but I honestly like my kid could read it. Like I don't have a problem with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to do all of the weird stuff, but then I also want to make it like pretty accessible. And also, I mean, accessible for people who are of my kind of age range, because it's like one of the narrators basically just like he references a lot of like nostalgic shit that I have, and so people there's I mean you can look down on them. I look down on them, but not when I'm doing it. But there's like Ernest Cline or whatever, like that. His books are like incredibly popular, and he basically went all in on like 80s nostalgia with his characters, and whether that's good or not, I mean I would argue, but maybe it's not. But I at least I'm doing some things that are similar to that, like with the fun approach and like all that stuff. But then also like I'm like actually like trying to, if you think about it, like I don't dwell on it, but like yeah, the setting is like it's it's 8 billion years in the future. By that time, in 8 billion years, the sun is gonna have hit supernova. It's gonna or not supernova. It will have expanded, whatever, and
Right.
it will have eaten everything out basically past our orbit. Like we will be incinerated, right?
Right.
Over a like a slow amount of time. So, I solved for that by having these big ass thrusters that they just built on the side of the planet to move the planet. But it's so far beyond that like no one knows how that technology ever worked. And so, but I don't dwell too much on that, but that is like part of the lore of the Dino Knights is that not Dino Knights, maybe post humans built that shit on the planet and moved the planet so it wouldn't get eaten by and then that's just where they live. That's just the planet, and they're on that planet with these big ass thrusters, and they're just fighting the at the end of time these post robots, and they're like post life forms of Earth. So yeah.
Like, yeah, there's just big rockets there. Nobody knows how they got there, but it saved everybody. So
yeah, but it's and does it like? Do I like Jonathan Hickman explain everything out? I mean,
you need like 80 issues.
I could have some graphs if you would like.
No.
I would
have all of that shit written down, but I don't know if people are actually going to enjoy reading it.
Yeah,
so
I do enjoy a good Hickman graph, so I'll just throw that out there.
Like oh, hey, if you do,
like Morrison's multiversity map, yeah, that'll help. Yeah, I mean, Chris and I were super into this project, and I mean, it reminds us of like Saturday morning cartoons, but also combining sci-fi and fantasy together, which is just amazing. The preview pages you have up on the campaign are really good. And you give us a little bit of a timeline and like an explanation of the team and everything, so people can go check that out. And then you have variant covers for each issue, right? If you want to talk about those a little bit.
Yeah, so I do. I have Marco Itri, and Dave Schwartz on issue 1, and then Dave again on issue 2, and
Rodrigo Catraca.
Yeah, Rodrigo Catraca. Yep. Yeah, and he's actually working on issue 7 right now.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
He's doing thumbs for that right now. He's great, and he did. So he has that variant, and then he's got another variant that's going to drop next campaign. And then Roberto Riviera is doing like a con exclusive, and so you can pick that up on this campaign, or if you see him in person, I'm gonna print out like 60 for him. And that was a trade. That's the other thing, is like funding these books is like stuff. So he did that. He's awesome, amazing guy. Actually, I don't know if I have it right here, but he drew me a Bog Knight for my birthday, which is like one of my horror. That's another Arthurian swamp thing creature that I created. But anyways, he did that. So you can pick it up directly from him at like a con, or you can pick it up on our campaign. So yeah, and there are metal versions of all of the covers.
Oh man, that's awesome.
So. Yeah, I don't know. Have y'all seen the metal covers?
I've seen some in the past. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure
I
they
own
look
a
really
few.
Good. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they're really nice how they come out.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of campaigns doing those, but I mean, I feel like for a camp like this type of story and the colors and everything, they'll probably look really good.
With the characters with like literal armor.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's another drop that I'll just let y'all know.
Oh, sick.
I haven't talked about this too much. Well, I don't think I've talked about this at all with anyone.
Exclusive.
Exclusive. So the top 5 people on the campaign, I'm gonna sneak in a metal variant that's just ink. That's just the inks, because I want to see how that prints. Because I've only seen how they print with full color.
Right.
But I think it might look cool. So I'm basically going to test 5 print those
That's cool.
and stick them in.
That's awesome.
to backers. So
That's
yeah,
awesome. That's a really
That
cool
is really
idea.
cool.
Yeah, I haven't seen that before.
And you had mentioned that like you're already pretty much 6 issues deep into the series, and it's one of the things I wanted to talk about because I've definitely never seen this before. Maybe someone's done it, but it hasn't grazed these eyes yet. Which is the digital subscription for the next 6 issues, and so you can see the different covers that you're going to do. Which you're also doing a Final Fantasy VII homage cover. Which yeah.
Love that.
What went into the idea of like let's do a subscription right here and see if we can get people right off the bat for all 6? And do you worry that that's going to affect future Kickstarters?
I do worry a little bit because someone was asking like, well, how much of is this going to cost? How much is that going to cost on future campaigns? And the thing is, I don't know what the market is going to be in the future, and I don't know, like, and I might add pages. In the 6th issue, I just said is to myself, like, and because this is indie comics and it's not corporate comics, and I'm not constrained. Like, some issues just might be fucking long, and that's a commit. Like, I didn't do that with A Haunting on Mars, like, because I wanted A Haunting on Mars to be packageable and sellable at comic book shops. Dino Knights, I'm basically saying like this is what I can do, like, as a creator. It's not going to be constrained by your typical comic book format ish. Obviously, it's a comic book, but yeah. So page count might increase, which means it costs more. So some of that is like I'm committed to delivering the subscription model at the $39 price and the $99 price, which is like include the $99 one includes like almost every comic book that I've made, which is like 600 pages or something. It's a lot of comic books. It's House of Blood, A Haunting on Mars, Dino Knights, Spellslinger, and 3 issues of Kaiju Blues. So it's like that's a shit ton of comics. So that's why that's expensive. And you get almost all of them immediately, and then the issues of Dino Knights that aren't coming out, those drop a day before. So we'll see how it goes, but like honestly, most of the people that are backing physical, and they're backing at the Squire, which is fine. I mean, that's cool. Like, get your books, and that what to me seems like the future campaigns people will back for physical at whatever the next 2 issues are, the standard level of the next 2 issues, and that's cool. Like, I'm happy with that. With all of the tariff talk and all of that stuff, like I wanted to open up a space for like digital subscriptions, because it's like I don't have to all of the funding, like I don't have print costs.
Right.
Like I would love digital to like really, really take off. Like that would be really awesome, because it saves me thousands of dollars in printing and shipping.
Right.
Shipping. The printing is the printing. Like as much as I could say, like supporting printers is cool, and I like the physical thing of a comic book. I like that. But shipping is incredibly expensive. I mean, I don't like it. It has to get passed on to the backers, and in America, it's $5. Like, it's $5 to $6.
Yeah.
Like, it just is.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Right.
Like,
right.
that sucks. Like $5. That's that's a fifth to a quarter of my whole funds goes to, like, I was looking at last month, I spent $880 on Pirate Ship, which is the app that I use to ship. And that's all USPS, and it's the cheap, it's basically the cheapest in America. Outside of America, I also use USPS because they outsource to DHL, who actually delivers. So F UPS and F FedEx, because they sometimes they don't deliver. Like, right. they'll threaten to like return to sender, and they'll be like, no, this person has to come into our office to pick it up, and it's like, that's Do you think I shipped to your office, or do you think I shipped to their door?
Right.
Like, why did
yeah.
you? Why did you?
Why did you
take,
accept the package? To be
Why did
good?
you?
Yeah.
Why did you take? Yeah,
Yeah. No, totally.
literally $50 to ship to Germany, and then they won't deliver it to this
That's
person's
crazy.
door. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Wow.
I pay $80 to DHL. Yeah. Anyways,
No, I know why. Now I know why
Yeah.
Europeans, all the Europeans I work
Yeah.
with, use DHL. Now I know.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%. And USPS outsources to DHL, so you can always use them if
Okay.
you're shipping out of the states.
Well, that's a
I
good
don't know,
tip
That's,
for
that's
any
super in the
creators.
weeds.
I mean, we've
but-
never talked about that, so good for starting creators to know that about the
Yeah.
logistics of it all, because it sucks shipping things.
Go USPS all the way.
Yeah.
And never go FedEx and never go UPS.
Nice.
In my opinion. At least I've shipped out, I don't know, 500 packages.
Yeah.
Don't go with those other guys.
And I mean, just talking about the campaign, we still have almost a month left here. We have all these digital bundles, and I think that's cool because a lot of creators don't focus on digital, like you're saying. It'd be great. You just want to get your book out there, in this form to as many people as possible. And digital right now is like one of the best ways to do that. So
I want to be and I want to be able to continue funding this project. Like the idea for Dino Knights is to create a sustainable story that I can continue. I don't know, maybe indefinitely.
Mm-hmm.
Like as long as I'm getting successful campaign funds, and it's not just completely getting eaten up by shipping and printing, and I can use some of those funds to pay artists.
Yep.
Then that's the goal. Like that's really the goal. When I say like funding, when I hit like the funding goal, that's basically just to pay for printing and shipping. So anything above that is like when it's like actually becomes sustainable. Well, it's not even sustainable yet, but I think this one will hopefully be sustainable.
And is there do you have any stretch goals or anything like that, or no?
I think, I'd like to do a stretch goal. I'd like to do stickers.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
But I'm hesitant to do that just because it's just more costs.
Right.
Like,
yeah. You want to make sure that you can get the book out and stuff.
Yeah.
And you went in on a theme song too, which I mean,
yeah.
if you want to talk about that, that's really cool.
Yeah, the theme song's dope. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I co-wrote some of those lyrics, and then it was like also the lyrics written and performed by this band called Antibodies, and they actually reached out to me. They're super affordable. I highly recommend anyone who's interested in like a theme song go with them. They're great, and they read the like 5 issues that I had, and they were like, "Oh, this is like so cool," and they were like totally into it. So
it's amazing. It's like it totally reminds me of like 90s Saturday morning cartoons. Like
that was the vibe.
Or like Power Rangers. Yeah, if you go on the Kickstarter, everybody, you can click on the video and it just immediately starts playing. It's awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that's really
super proud of that. Yeah, they're great, and they've done like goofy theme songs like that for other stuff.
That's so
cool. Check out that band. They're super catchy. Like my daughter is like always like, play Dino Knights, play Dino Knights.
Dino Knights.
Like I've heard it like a million times now.
That's awesome. No, that's a really cool touch, because I mean, like that, just the GIF that you have on the page reminds me of like a Saturday morning cartoon. I mean, I know we talked enough about like action figures and stuff. I mean, eventually, do you ever see like maybe down the line for a campaign trying to do a figure of any of these? Have you looked into that at all? Or?
Yeah, actually, I have. They're very expensive to create.
You gotta make a lot of them, I think, right?
Yeah, well, and not just that, like the design fee, because like I'm actually like a 3D animator dropout, early 3D animator dropout, and I have connections to people and that. Well, now I have like a friend that teaches animation, and so can do 3D modeling, and is like, I actually do this on the side. I was like, how much? He's like, basically for like a low poly model would be like 500, and for like a full like high poly model would be like 2,000. Like, oh, okay, like it's a little bit out of my range, but
right.
like if something pops off, then $500 is not out of the question. Like doing like if something like really popped off, it's like I would totally be cool with doing a set of them, and then I want to do tabletop because that's like
Nice.
part of the lore is
Hmm.
that
Mhm.
they run a tabletop shop, and that's how people don't like people will see them and they like buy it or they sell D&D stuff and they people think that they're like animatronic like characters. So that's kind of how they hide their,
Either, yeah, okay.
identity or whatever.
That's their secret identity is
Yeah, their secret identity
mascots
is
at a
that
game shop.
is that they're mascots at a game shop. And their like best friend is like part of the second arc is like that comes to like a climax.
Oh.
That their side character best friend is like having like an identity crisis about uh their identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, spoiler alert. I'll just quickly get in that because it's a weird sci-fi concept. She gets hit with this like holy grail thing that like that affects time,
Uh-huh.
and her mind whenever she dreams like starts rewriting the timeline.
Mm.
And so her like understanding of like the Dino Knights like starts like affecting them, and so like the gag on the like final issue 7 like climax is like one of them taking their skin off and they're actually like a human underneath, and it's like because like reality just keeps getting
Yeah.
rewritten because
That's
because
awesome.
of her like
That's so
dreaming
cool.
or whatever.
Yeah, that's so cool. And you could just put that wacky stuff in the book too. Like that's just awesome. It just
Yeah,
fits, right?
well, that's part of like building like a Saturday morning cartoon
Yeah.
style
Nobody questions it.
sandbox.
Right.
Is like
You just
you
do
can
whatever.
just do the
Yeah.
craziest,
Yeah,
dumbest shit.
yeah, you really can. I'm super excited about it. I think Chris is too.
Oh yeah.
And before we wrap up today, is there anything else you want to say about it, Zach? Before we, tell everybody where to go, find you and stuff.
Well, I guess like I was saying, if you like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, if you like Thundercats, like that's all surface level similarities.
Right.
But then so like is like the joy of like the style, hopefully the style in that in how it's written. But then also if you like bigger crazy sci-fi concepts or Arthurian lore, because I'm tying that it's all kind of tied in to
Right.
that thematically. Time travel, Philip K. Dick, science fiction, Jack Vance, all of that stuff. And King Arthur. Like if you like that shit, check it out. I
really recommend for this one, just like go to the Dino Knights page, look at that art, and then tell me why you wouldn't like
Yeah.
that. And then if you don't, press
Look at
that
the
play-
totally tubular preview pages.
Yeah, and also press that button and listen to the song, and it'll be stuck in your head like it is for me right now. So-
I think about I doubled down on the song because part of the lyrics in writing that song
Mhm.
was to pitch the book in a way, because it kind of just says everything you need to know in one, how the music sounds,
Right.
which is like this 80s pop punk
Hell yeah.
metally type melody,
guitar
and then
solos
two,
and shit. Yeah,
yeah, the lyrics themselves are like basically their lore.
It's
like
the lore.
How, yeah.
that's awesome.
So
Very
so
cool.
listen to that song, and then if you're into it, please back.
Yeah, and if our listeners and our viewers want to follow you and all the stuff you're doing, where do you want to send them? Social media or something like that?
Yeah, so I'm at Chappy Zach on most platforms. You can find me. I'm like infrequently on Twitter. I don't have it on my phone, so I'm not responsive on that. But I'm on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky, even though I can't get a like or retweet to save my life on there. And then
Sick.
I'm on Facebook. I'm Zach Chapman.
Cool.
Reach out to me on any of those platforms, and I
Nice.
can talk to you about the history of comics for
Hell yeah,
2
let's go.
hours.
That's fine.
Nice. So to everybody out there watching, listening, you should know the drill by now. Down in the show notes below, I will have, most importantly, a link to the Kickstarter, links to some of Zach's other pages, and all the social medias I could find down there below for you to follow him further. Zach, it's been a pleasure talking with you, man. The book looks
thanks for having me.
and we look forward to the campaign doing really well for you.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.